Now, if there is one thing that I know conservatives love doing, it's celebrating the death of minorities. Really, there's really nothing else more that they love doing. Celebrating the deaths of minorities and defending them, and defending it, particularly if said minority was murdered. They really just love celebrating and defending those actions in particular, and that's what we're going to be covering today. Another instance of exactly that. A man by the name of Jordan Neely was murdered on a subway train in New York City. He was a homeless man, from as far as we know at this point, and he was having a mental breakdown on the subway by the looks of things. And the response from a man by the name of, I forgot his name, Daniel Penny, was to put him into a chokehold from behind and to choke him until he died. The guy wasn't attacking anyone. He wasn't actively assaulting anyone or engaging in any violent acts. He was having a bit of a meltdown in public, but I don't think having a public meltdown because you have, bad mental health means you deserve to be murdered. But of course, because this man was black and homeless, the right has come to absolutely celebrate this. Not only has the right celebrated it, but also the grifters on the quote-unquote left, who have decided to start, shilling to the right, have also jumped on board with this. So, for example, you guys might be familiar with the fact that TYT, the Young Turks, has really fallen off lately. I predicted back when Anna started doing the turf posting shit about being called a birthing person, which has never happened to her before. I was pretty sure that this was a sign that the Young Turks is going to make a very distinct and blatant turn to market towards the right in order to make more money. And I think that's kind of exactly what's happening at this point. Because here's Cenk Uyghur's take on the murder of Jordan Neely.
Instantly come up with their side and decide that the facts can come in later and we'll sort it out, right? So from the right-wing perspective, this guy Neely is super dangerous and somebody had to protect the people on the train and his self-defense, etc. Well, but first of all, you don't know any of that. Is the question of whether it's self-defense is absolutely critical to this. For the left wing, I be honest, maybe legislators and others had information much quicker than the rest of us, or I did, but they just jumped in right away and said it's definitely murder. But wait, doesn't it matter what actually happened? So it looks like for now, and there's a lot of other tapes that the cops apparently have, but we do not have. So we're gonna get into Neely and his background in a little bit, okay? But are there people who act erratically and attack people on New York subways? Yes, there absolutely are, okay? If people are jittery about that, I don't think it's crazy to be worried about it. Did Neely say that he doesn't care if he goes to jail for life, etc.? And is that disconcerting if you're on that subway train? Yes, according to the witnesses, apparently he did say that. Yes, I would argue that is disconcerting. But here's the critical.
Hey chat, you shouldn't lay your finger or a hand or anything on someone until they have explicitly indicated they genuinely intend to harm you. There is a difference between a homeless guy having a mental breakdown in public and somebody laying their hands on you for a fight. I've seen the video. Jordan Neely didn't throw his hands on anyone. He wasn't pushing anyone, shoving anyone, grabbing anyone. He was snuck up on from behind. He was having a public mental breakdown. Now, I have a feeling that Cenk is going to get into this in a moment because it's the right-wing narrative. But as the right always likes to say, when something like this happens, he was no angel, you see. And basically, depending on the situation, they will decide, they will basically find whatever excuse they can for why this was justified. Doesn't matter if whatever it was happened 10 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. It doesn't matter if it had nothing to do with what was happening. in that instance. They will use that to justify said murder. He was threatening people. He wasn't armed. Someone who is just having a mental breakdown in public threatening people should not be fucking headlocked for 15 minutes until they die. Okay? I had homeless guys screaming the hard R at me last year. It was weird because we're both black, but he was 5 minutes from midnight. Yeah, like if somebody is very clearly about to attack you, like they are about to attack you, that is very different than what was happening in that video. He was snuck up on, he was put into a headlock, and he was held there for 15 minutes, and he died. He died because of it. That's the thing that people keep on, just kind of gliding right over. The fact that they think he deserved to die for what he was doing. They are justifying his death, his murder. He was choked to death on a subway train in New York City, and that is what they're trying to find excuses to justify. There's so many little things they'll bring up that really make this guy sound bad, right? Like, oh, man, he was a kind of bad guy maybe, but it has no bearing on what was happening in the video. And even what was happening in the video, while he was certainly out of line, I don't think that his behavior was acceptable. I don't believe that a lethal choke is the response to that. Yeah, it was absolutely a lethal choke. It was 100% an intentionally lethal choke. Especially considering the fact that he seemed to know what he was doing, considering that was a pretty solid rear naked choke that literally, yeah, he was an ex-Marine. He knows how long it takes to choke someone out. It takes roughly 10 to 15 seconds to choke somebody out when you're very efficiently cutting off their, this artery right here. And that guy, he had biceps, he could do that. He held that guy in the choke, cutting off his artery for a very long time.
Critical part. For
ex-Marine. No, the guy who choked him out. The guy who choked him out was an ex-Marine, not the guy who was killed. Not Jordan Neely. It's not called lethal because it's guaranteed to kill, but it has a high likelihood to kill. Well, no, it was lethal in this sense because the guy intended to kill him by the looks of things.
For now, it appears that the witnesses say that Neely did not attack anyone. Now, if that's not true, or there's other witnesses, or there's other tape, that would be absolutely critical, even if you think it's not important, and I do think it's important.
Well, yeah, it is pretty critical if there's video of him attacking, laying hands on somebody on the subway. That's a different story. Then he should have been subdued. Killed, though, do you think the death penalty is a valid response to assaulting someone? Once again, all of this is in service of a decision as to whether or not the murder of this guy was justified. Did he attack someone on the subway? Did he do this or that years ago? Was he no angel? All to try to justify his death. And I understand there is somebody's, livelihood on the line, considering the person, if it was a case where that guy who choked him out had absolutely no choice but to do so, you wouldn't want him to spend the rest of his life for a very long time behind bars when he really had no choice. But the evidence that we have so far, and considering the fact the guy who did it has now been charged with manslaughter, that suggests to me that, yeah, no, he kind of went in there and killed that guy, at the very least, negligently. That is what he's being charged with, the negligent killing of someone. They're okay, well, he was doing it in the name of defending people on the train, but he still killed the person, but he's arguing unintentionally, we'll charge manslaughter. It's a pretty strong case, I'd say.
It certainly would be super important in a trial, right? Whether it's self-defense or not. But if it turns out that the witnesses that we have heard from so far are correct, that Penny put him in the chokehold from behind, and he had not been attacked and no one else had been attacked, well, that's damning for Penny.
And that is what happened in the video.
Because you can't just say, hey, that guy said something really weird and outrageous and I'm a little worried about it, I'm now gonna go choke him for 15 minutes. That's not a thing you're allowed to do, okay? So there's
Gotta like start moving things over, schmoving things over to start shilling to the right. That is not the worst take on it, though. That is far, far from the worst take on it. I'd say probably one of the worst we've got is Matt Walsh's. So Matt Walsh's response was, "Here we go again. A good Samaritan steps up to restrain an insane, erratic vagrant with 40 prior arrests and an active warrant for felony assault. The vagrant dies in the struggle. The vagrant dies in the struggle." I like how they use the term vagrant. The vagrant dies in the struggle. What a way to word things. He died in the struggle. And now leftist scum. Oh yeah, by the way, in case you're wondering, he calls himself a theocratic fascist in his Twitter bio. He's said openly that is not like him being ironic or a meme. He actively, proudly does identify as a theocratic fascist. It's not a meme. It's not ironic. It's not like he's not trolling or saying it like as a meme. Oh, do I mean it or do I not? No, he's said it's not a meme. It is 100% sincere. He's admitted so. So yeah, when he says leftist scum, he outright like intends to use it in a genocidal manner to encourage like violence towards and dehumanization and violence towards those that are on the left. So AOC ends up having a take about this, saying Jordan Neely was murdered. But because Jordan was houseless and crying for food in a time when the city is raising rents and stripping services to... This is a little bit of a whitewashing of the video, to be fair. He was clearly having a mental breakdown, no doubt because he's homeless, hungry, and has nowhere to live. But, you know, he wasn't... You know, he wasn't just crying for food, you know. I think it is important to honestly represent what happened, but not for the sake of trying to, like, smooth things over for the right-wing narrative. But I do think it is important to have, you know, a strong conviction to accurately explaining what happened. And stripping services to militarize itself while many in power demonize the poor. The murderer gets protected with passive headlines plus no charges. It's disgusting. And to be fair, the person did get charged. He has been charged with manslaughter. But Tim Pool's response... Tim Pool, who is actually a favorite content creator of the recent shooter that we covered, the one at the mall, the recent mall shooter that we covered, was actually a big fan of Tim Pool, the guy with the SS and swastika tattoo. Unironic Tim Pool fan. There was a bunch of posts that he had made of screenshots of like Tim Pool videos he enjoyed that he dropped likes on. He was watching. Anyway, Tim Pool's quote tweet of AOC's take on this is, "This is malicious and evil, and I'm not going to excuse it. AOC is evil. That's it. She is evil." So their response to this is to say that anybody who doesn't like that the response to what Jordan Neely was doing was for him to be held in a chokehold for 15 minutes and murdered, is to call us evil, leftist scum. They want to kill you. They don't just want to kill the minorities, though. They want to kill everybody who thinks that minorities shouldn't be killed. So if you're not a super racist, far-right conservative like, you know, these people are, then believe me, they'll come for you too. You have to jump on board with their bandwagon, or they will kill you if they take power. That's how these things have always gone, and that's how these things will always go. These people can never be allowed to have power. They will always take advantage of liberal democracy to try to gain it. But in every case, it will lead to, like, if they are allowed to gain that power, it will lead to fascism and the destruction of democracy shortly after. Yep, cruelty is a virtue, and that's a virtue they love to signal to their audience often. Legal Defense Fund raises over $1 million for accused in Jordan Neely's subway death. That's right. Daniel Penny has been charged with manslaughter at this point, and now his legal fundraiser has raised $1 million. Over $1 million. Because remember, guys, as I said, one of the right's favorite pastimes is justifying the murder of minorities. And if you do that, and you become a big martyr in the right's eyes, you better believe they will raise exorbitant amounts of money to get you out of it. Kyle Rittenhouse, and now this guy. There's been plenty of other people in the past that they've done the same for. The left has never had access to this amount of money. Even on a grassroots level, the left doesn't have access to this amounts of money because the right-wingers just have more money because most people vote conservative. Well, not most people, but a lot of wealthy people vote conservative to preserve their own self-interest. So a lot of conservatives, or a lot of wealthy people, are conservative, which means a lot of conservative figures like this, in situations like this, can rely on very wealthy benefactors saving them, you know? And then they can literally have a complete conservative media career afterwards. For all we know, you might want to get used to this guy's face. You very well may want to get used to this guy's face, because he may be the next Kyle Rittenhouse. This might be the face of the next Kyle Rittenhouse. Sorry to say it, but that's what I see coming.